task in its own right, but definitely want to do that and take it further, and that's what I'm here to hopefully do.
Were you able to do like your first? Did you have? I don't want to say impact, right? That's not the right word. But did you have do you have a hand in the recruiting for this fall at all, or was there a class that was sort of set?
The class was basically set, so I mean, like my first priorities was calling up every single guy who's returning, re-recruiting the own roster. The current roster was the first priority, and then it's also calling the group of guys who were there. And some of them was on the fence, just hey, coaching change, and I said, listen, like I could just tell you who I am. Like you guys fell in love with the program for a reason, and I don't want to come in and reinvent the wheel. I want to take what's already here and think of it as a snowball. Like I just want to keep building off of that rather than making a whole new snowball. So it's not like I mean, June 1st was my official start day. It's not like I had a whole lot of time to try and bring in new 2022 kids. So, but I mean, I've been happy with kind of the conversations, watching film, talking to people about this incoming class that it's just about making them my own and not thinking that, just wait till I get my class here. And then my class are the guys who want to be here. So that's what I'm happy with.
Yeah. So how many guys are you bringing in or are coming in this fall?
We have about 11 guys. So with the returners, we'll be at 30 guys this year.
Is that usually the size of roster that you like to keep? I don't know Defiance what you kept there, but
I was used to like between 36 and 40. So this is definitely in my wheelhouse. So very comfortable and just excited.
Yeah. That's. I'm always curious, right? Like that's a big bump. Like from a player's perspective, right? New coach, whatever. Makes people jittery,
and that's why it's about calming those nerves, and it's not like there's a secret formula, but just I was just hoping me being myself was good enough to do that, and we retained, and it's all go ahead.
Have you been able to have any practices, or they were already home by then?
Yeah, they were already home, so no practices. I mean, some of the guys are playing summer ball in their respective places, so I mean, it's just kind of checking in on that and seeing how they're doing. But besides the conversations about who they are, who I am, their play style, positions, and then watching a whole lot of film from last year on my own end, it's not like I got to talk to them before they left.
So this. It's just popped into my head. What obviously there's different types of practices, but what do you view as a typical practice for you?
Yeah. I mean, like I'm big on you play for 90 minutes. We're going to condition your body to work for 90 minutes. So it's usually, some smaller pictured theme of what we want to do today. So whether it might just be technical work or some kind of just small-sided 4v2 rondo with a picture of, hey, like if we're going to focus on how we transition an attack or defense to attack, then have like a 30-minute first part, 30-minute second part, and then open it up like a fuller field activity. I mean, I'm big on like 4 team type activities. That's why I like 4 goalkeepers. So if you get any more than that, then they're not really getting work in the session. So I like to have an objective of where everyone's kind of working and it's not sitting out picking daisies. It's everyone's getting 5 reps.
Yeah. And so you condition players based on playing that way.
Yeah, I just think it's, for better or for worse, games of 90 minutes, and sure, subs are made and stuff of that nature. But if you want to get the most out of your or at least get used to what it's going to be like if we need big game, need them going.
Yeah.
At least you're used to it in some sort of not 100% replicated setting, but trying to have that, intense yet let's not put a 2-foot tackle on a teammate type of setting.
Yeah. You like competition, but you don't like that kind of competition.
Yeah, there's a fine line, so it's about finding that line. But
yeah. And this might be something that you're not even thinking about yet, but will you have, or will you organize, or do you already have some sort of like leadership team or leadership council for the program, or have you put any thought into that? If not, that's fine as well. Like I said, go ahead.
Go ahead. I mean, I've put some thought into it. I mean, this is, something why I took the job in the first place, and just talking to some of these guys, it's, there's a group of, fifth-year seniors returning who are very much invested and want to accomplish more, and some upperclassmen that have played a whole lot of games for this program and been very good representatives that, and just talking to other people too, to hear some of the younger guys who they respect as, whether it's captains or leaders. But I mean, there's like 5 or 6 of them that, I've asked about, hey, what do you want to do for travel gear or kind of uniforms and stuff like that, and hoping that will eventually develop into, hey, once we're in campus, let's sit down and have more of a leadership committee type of thing. So yeah, it has been something that I think I had to think about right away to really know what those guys are not only thinking during the transition, with it being an interesting time, but just also, hey, like, what are some things that we could also work on, or that you want to see? And not that that's 100% going to happen just because you guys say it, but I do want to know what these guys are thinking from their experiences that they've had.
Those are. I'm really interested in that whole idea of like team leadership these days. I don't know why. Somebody said something really cool, and it just sort of stuck in there, and I'm very interested in that aspect. But I just pulled up your schedule, and I'm assuming you didn't have any hands on sort of the schedule itself, but what are your thoughts on it? I mean, you open up against, again, knowing you guys are good, but you open up against Ohio Wesleyan, then you go to DePaul.
It's tougher than last year's non-conference, that's for sure. So,
yeah.
But I mean, and I think, some other OAC coaches have said it, being in such a respected conference, like, you might as well go and challenge yourself, because if you have a good year and you knock off some good non-conference teams, you could be setting yourself off for at-large bids. I mean, Ontario and Otterbein made it last year, and I mean, I think there was, I think Ohio Northern always sets themselves up with their non-conference schedule, that if they have a decent non-conference run and a decent OAC run, like, they could qualify for at-large, and like, I think Coach, Slice, and I agree 100% that why not us? Why not us put ourselves in that position? In the Ohio Wesleyan, it is a scrimmage, so I think that's a good.
Oh, that's a scrimmage. Okay.
For me and these guys, like, welcome to go into a place that's a 17 straight national tournament appearance type place. Like, no better place to get yourself sorted and what it's going to be like. So I do think that's great. But I mean, we got Kenyon, Denison on there, and I mean, DePaul and Center opening up are no joke as well. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be maybe a few waking up in the middle of the night thinking about a team coming up or something like that. But I hope we give them those same feelings, because we're a scary team in our own right.
Yeah, I look at those as competitive. From what I watched last year, that could be competitive. I thought I got a sense, and I don't know if this is accurate, because I was reviewing some of my notes from the games that I watched from last year. I almost got a sense of, like, when you were playing against the really good teams, like, and in the tournament, in the OAC tournament, like, there was this little bit of naivete, like, it was not having been there before. That was, again, just purely from me watching on the computer screen. But I definitely think the talent is there. I mean,
Right. And I
you
mean,
know,
during the COVID year, I mean, obviously things were crazy, but I mean, the Wilmington side, like, they positioned themselves third place and went to Marietta and were penalty kicks away from making that
yeah,
OSC tournament as well. So I mean, these fifth
yeah,
year guys and even like regular seniors, juniors, they've had some taste of some very intense environments and the big games in college. And I think they won a
mm,
quarterfinal against Capital in the COVID year, lost one this year. So they've been on both sides of it, and I'm hoping those experiences, along with my
yeah,
experiences as a coach, could really just take it one step further, maybe two
yeah,
steps, three steps. We'll see how big we can stretch our legs out, but got to
yeah,
get there first, like I said.
yeah, yeah. You can't. I would say you can't. It's very rare that somebody just shows up and is able to leapfrog everybody in play. It's almost like you gotta. It's like climbing Everest. You know, you got to go up and then you come back down. You go up, you come back down. You go a little higher, you come back down until you capture all that experience. So it's like, oh, this is just another soccer game, and we
Right.
just got to win it, right?
Good way to put it.
Um, but, not having watched, I fully confess my homework probably wasn't as thorough. But how would you say Defiance played? And is that sort of the way you like to play? And is that sort of what you're going to want to do at Wilmington?
I I think from my time at Defiance, and I think kind of like you said, like we improved in stages of that Everest
Yeah.
effect, if you will. And I mean, this past year, we made a conscious effort, and I mean, a lot of it was through planning practices and Josh Lubish, who is my assistant coach and got promoted to the head coach when I came over to Wilmington. Like we did a lot of soul searching to say, how could we play a little bit more attractive style soccer with the guys that we have to do something. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm stuck in one way of how it has to be done, how it's played. I think it's my job as a coach to get the 11 most on-form guys on the field and put them in the most successful positions possible to
Mm-hmm.
achieve an outcome. And like,
Yeah.
obviously, I'm going to sit here and like, I like attractive soccer. I like playing on the ground and stuff like that. And there are things from my experiences that I think I could throw in, but I think I'd be naive to not set myself up with what the guys are in the room and what they're really good at as well.
Yeah.
And we've got some scary guys that if they get in space on the wings, I wouldn't want to be a defender going against them.
Yeah.
So I also have to just, talk with our staff and see our players and how are we going to be the most successful. So I wouldn't say I have a specific way. We did some great things at Defiance. I want to continue to kind of build off philosophies, and we have at least a structure, but it's probably going to be curtailed to what we do here at Wilmington.
Right. If I recall, I keep thinking you're like left wing. Left wing was really impressive player. I think it was the left wing.
Yeah, probably Yusuf.
Yeah,
Some great
that
athletes.
sounds familiar. He was when he was on, he was scary good.
Yeah.
Scary good.
I mean, left wing, he's a very impressive young man. On the right wing, we have Alorm Dogby, who in the COVID year was actually the OAC attacker or striker or whatever forward of the year in his own right, too. And unfortunately, and funny enough, like he did pick up a little injury in a scrimmage against Defiance last fall, and he ended up playing a bunch of games and stuff like that. But I mean, either one of those guys, and there's plenty more that didn't get that kind of recognition as well, that on their given day they could put two or three past the OAC.
You guys can you definitely do connect. Like again, just watching last year. Hey, in your ideal scenario, like what kind of players do you like to recruit? Like just a player profile. What does that look like? Are you big, fast, strong? Or are you looking for talent over, dumb or brains? You know what I mean?
I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, like I'm gonna have to, and already like shifting a little bit from Defiance to Wilmington of what I'm looking for, because I do think it's a little bit different fit of a kind of player and profile that I'm looking for now. I mean, the big thing I look for, like I'm going to these club games and showcases, and you can't really see it in highlights because it's everyone's just best plays, but it's like the first thing I'm going to look for is reactions to mistakes, because I kind of tell my guys that we made the conscious decision to play and coach the most unrewarding sport possible, because basketball puts up, I don't know, 70, 90 points a game, football scoring 21, like we're fighting for 1 or 2 goals a game, but in that span, like there's going to be so many mistakes that are going to be made. So it's how do you handle yourself after a mistake? Can you take accountability and all that? And that sticks out like a sore thumb if it's a bad reaction, good reaction. So I need guys to react positively and take ownership. So I mean, it's that like I'd be lying if I said like I want to be wowed. Like if I'm at a game and somebody does something, like whether it's a big tackle or cross-field pass or turn under pressure, fast feet down a sideline, like I do like things to be, oh, that was exciting. Like, so I do look for those things as well, and that at least gets you on the radar, and then we'll kind of figure out, hey, what we do here at Wilmington, is that kind of fitting what that student athlete is looking for in their experience.
This is probably more of a Defiance question, but like, what was that COVID year like for you guys, or for you? Was it fun? Did you have a great time? Was it terrible? What was that experience like?
I mean, minus actual COVID itself and everything that I was doing, it was honestly needed, or at least welcomed for me. So, I mean, I took over Defiance in a very similar spot of I'm taking over Wilmington. It was over the summer. I'm meeting the guys in person on move-in day. And so this was I got the job July of 2019 at Defiance. So that first season, like, it's like, hey, how are you doing? I'm your coach. Oh, we're going to go out and play Hiram, our first game of the season in 10 days. Like, good luck. And obviously, like, I watched film and I try and understand players' concepts and what they want to do and put them in position to be successful. And we did well. Like, we had a good year. So then you think, okay, that springtime will be, hey, I could really get in the nitty-gritty of who I am, what I want to do. They've been able to work with me a little bit, and that was all taken away from COVID. Like, literally, the guys were supposed to come back the next day, and they were on spring break, and everyone got sent home. So that fall essentially gave us a whole pre-season of however many days it was it was in pods and people, like we didn't have full groups and stuff like that, but we just played the cards we were dealt and really kind of created that preseason kind of feel, so we were all on the same page come that spring. So it was a lot. Obviously it was mentally taxing for everyone, but the guys were up for it, and I couldn't have asked for a better group of guys to do it with. And we had a few games where starters were out because of whatever reason. But, we made the most of it and then rolled that into this past season.
Yeah. That's interesting. You're the second coach who said, like, it was actually, I'm putting air quotes around good.
Right.
Like, it was a good lead up because they had so much time to work on things and that they never get a chance to do because they don't have the time. Yeah. And so that COVID period was like, man, I got 140 days of coaching that I never could have done under a normal circumstance.
In my situation, like I said, just coming in right as the season was basically happening, it really gave us, since we missed out on it in the spring, and you know what, maybe if we just had a normal springtime and no COVID, it would have been fine, but like I said, you just got to roll with what's given to you and really make something out of it.
I think you may have mentioned some of the first things you did when you got hired. Was it just to reach out to all the players, the new and the existing roster? Is there anything else more substantive that you did? Again, knowing that you're technically 26 days into your tenure.
which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, I keep looking at the calendar like, wait, 26 days? I can't ask that question. Like, in 26 days.
Yeah, I mean, I think another big thing was just like introducing myself to like the current staff members, whether it's admissions, financial aid, I mean, like other coaches here, because can't cry over spilled milk. Like, you got to just figure things out on the fly. Like, and I'm just trying to say, like, all right, like your visit experiences, like, what have you found that works? What's a good system? Like, admissions, like, what do you need from me to make your job as easy as possible? Because I mean, I worked in admissions, and my first job as an assistant for about a year and a half, and I understand like how to make someone's life easy in that field, how to make someone's life difficult, and so having that perspective, it's like, hey, I want to work to make everyone we're all on the same team here. Let's see what I have to do to make things flow. So I mean, it's just really understanding why Wilmington. Like, I know my why, but it's like why everyone else is, so we can combine that all together and really just present the best product of who we are. So it's just figuring all that kind of stuff out.
Yeah, like I said, drinking through a fire hose.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, you know, you want to take it like a regular hose and just, like, put that knot in it so it slows down a little bit, but it doesn't really happen.
That doesn't happen. No, it doesn't work that way.
No,
it doesn't work that way. It's one of those big fire hoses that is intentionally designed so it can't be wrapped and kinked.
Right. There's no, like, nozzle at the top.
No.
Yeah, you don't get the manual.
And they lost the crank to shut off the pipes at the fire hydrant, right?
Yeah, you can't go and find it because then you're going to take your hands off it. But we manage. That's what we do.
Yeah. You'll be all set. You'll understand everything come like August 15th or whenever you guys start preseason, and then it's a whole other set of things. But I'm sure you'll be welcoming the soccer field at that point, as opposed to the administrative stuff. Hey, maybe you at Defiance you've seen this or you've had experience. I've been asking coaches about this, when dealing with recruits, prospects of D1 or bust. Have you encountered that at all? If not, that's fine too.
No, I have a little bit, and I mean, like, believe it or not, it wasn't that long ago when I was in their shoes, kind of going through the same thing. And I mean, I grew up, 15 minutes from Cleveland State, like Cleveland, Ohio, and there was a part of chip on my shoulder, like, why aren't these guys reaching out to me? Like, I'm scoring all these goals in high school and doing all that kind of stuff, and I mean, I just try and provide the perspective that it's just about fit. It's like I found the fit for me, and I just hope that Wilmington's the fit for some people, that you're going to just represent your play, your academics, your everything the best by finding the best fit and not worry about that number in front of that division. And I mean, like, some people, like, D1's the place for you to go, and that's great. But I do think, and something I learned over time too, is that being like, American kid in high school or wherever you're at, like, trying to play Division I soccer, like, it might be like the hardest sport to try and get it with all the international guys coming over, and like, it's just going to be tough. And it's no disrespect to how things are done, because I think it's a great way. And like, we have international guys on our roster, and like, I welcome their experiences. And some of my best friends from college are international guys who had completely different experiences from me. But like, when it's roster spots and scholarships, and like, other sports are just really competing with American regional guys, and just, you're not at soccer. It's just, it is what it is. So that's why just that fit. And I think that's why also, like, Division III, like OAC soccer, like, I mean, you've promoted it a lot. Like, it's very high level. It's hard. It's hard to win games and stuff like that, because the talent is that high. So I just think that, you're prioritizing your school, what major you want, size of school, and then the athletic component about what you're really passionate about. Like, just, you can't always think about the number in front of the division.
Yeah. I've been going back and forth with this one on the players. I think part of it is it's a legitimate, right, like perception issue of, hey, Division One is the top division, right, and especially the way soccer is structured all across the globe, right? Premier League is better than the Championship, and you go out to the Bundesliga, right? Like, or all the leagues have varying degrees, and I think for whatever reason people think Division One soccer is the end all be all, and I definitely don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I remember probably one of my first bosses I worked for in soccer. Like, he always presented it as like a bar graph, and it's like, Division One, you start from the bottom, and it's like it is the highest one because you take your top 25 teams, like your North Carolinas, your Clemson, whatever, and they're probably going to beat everyone else. But then that second bar graph of Division Two, Division Three, NAIA, I mean, it's just like NAIA is just very vast, and some of it's really competitive, some of it's really not. But even in those Division Two, Division Three, like some of those teams, just based on where the bar graph lines up, are going to be able to compete. So, I mean, it's just all about, like, I think in soccer, the nature of what it is, any given day, some schools, no matter the division, if they're, like somewhat talent in the same ballpark, like, you could get a result, you could win, you could come away with something.
Yeah. I watched. It's interesting because you can never really compare, right, the Division Three to Division One. And I watched Trine play Notre Dame, and they got handed to them.
Yeah, I think that was on ESPN something too, right?
Yeah, and but then I got an email from Hope. I don't know, somebody from Hope, that they had tied Indiana or somebody. I forget. There's some combination of that, like those teams, and it makes you realize, there is a level. There is that level. There's Division One, and then there's the Division One that everyone thinks of.
Right.
And those aren't all those teams, and the top Division Three teams could easily give a run for their money to the majority of the Division One programs out there, just from a soccer standpoint. But,
I think, like, I mean, it just, like I said, like, there's just so much talent all around that.
Yeah.
I mean, people are where they're at for a reason in terms of Division One, Division Two, Division Three, but that doesn't mean that you can't go up and climb the ladder and beat someone.
Yeah.
So that's the exciting thing, I think, about the game. What everyone loves, the parody of it.
Yeah. It would be great. See, I'm a genius at this stuff. It would be great to have an FA Cup of Division 1, 2, and 3 soccer.
The biggest tournament ever created.
Yeah. How awesome would that be? Anyhow, like I said, I'm a creative genius. This YouTube thing, man, I am just so creative.
Look at that. I hope the right people are watching this.
The right
extraordinary type of event.
Yeah. The right people are watching to steal my idea.
That's true. You're going to get credit for it, but me and you will both know that you did something.
Yeah, so. It's recorded. Hey, yeah. I'm assuming, see what happens. You move to Wilmington and they change the rules around overtime, regular season and whatnot. Do you have, for anyone who hasn't heard this before, it's no overtime in regular season. It's only for tournament play, conference and NCAAs, and there is no golden goal. So what are your thoughts on that change? And I think by extension, is that going to change the way you coach a game? Yeah,
I'm a sucker for golden goal, so I'm kind of upset. Like, one of my favorite personal college soccer memories is scoring in double overtime, and it was a game that was delayed like 30 minutes due to like a monsoon coming through, and we had to sit on the bus and then come back out and play. Like, I do think the golden goal really creates these moments that are special. and even like, I was on the end of the negative end of it a few times, but I think that feeling makes you work even harder when you get to overtime to want to be on the other side of it. I think it does affect the way you coach, though. I think it has to. I think, when like you're late in the OAC play, and top 6 make the tournament, depending on where you're at, like you do have to take a realistic look at it and say, do I need a point? Do I need 3 points? Like what's it going to take? And instead of having that grace period of overtime, be able to have a little more time to figure things out, like I think you do have to look at things differently, and substitutions as well. And I think people have talked about the substitution thing. I'm very glad that hasn't changed. Based on my teams and stuff like that, I'm used to making quite a bit of subs, and giving opportunities, especially early in the year. Yeah. So when it comes down to that big time OAC game at the end of the year, like people have had game experiences and been at least somewhat there before. But I mean, like even like substitutions of like, do you sub someone out a little bit earlier because maybe you had that overtime to kind of that half-time-ish period in between overtime to catch a breath, or it does kind of make you have to think a little bit differently. Based on points, just players, I think a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I definitely think, it's going to obviously be situational, right? You're either going to be pressing for a goal, or you're going to be, hey, I'm okay walking out of here non-conference, with a tie. Ohio Wesleyan, okay, you know what? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that would end up, but if that's where it was at, and you're like, you know what, I'll take that result, especially if you're away or something like that. I definitely think it's ultimately that people are going to game it like they would anything else, right? Like, and that's fine.
I do think, if they would have kept it non-conference games, no overtime, conference games, when the conference tournament is going to have that overtime period, like to keep that similar. But hey, I'm just a year 4 head coach, and year 1 in a new spot, so wasn't the end all be all for that. But it is what it is. I still think I have to have the coolest job in the world, where I get to coach college soccer and use the game of soccer to affect these kids' lives. So I'm not going to be too affected by that.
Yeah. That's very true. Hey, you might not want to say these because you're just sort of meeting the team, but do you at Defiance, did you have any sort of like program team non-negotiables that you think would carry over to Wilmington?
I think so, because I think that's who I am, and I want to be real to myself. And I've got like some people call it a corny one that I've stuck to in like I have one rule that's like no F-bomb rule. Like, you can't drop an F-bomb or you run. And, like, I dropped them before, and they held me accountable and run, but I've seen it where refs will give a straight red just because you said that out loud, and that's the one word that they look for. So, it might sound corny or dorky or whatever, but I remember my, like, first ever practice at Defiance as a first-time head coach, and, like, there was a little dust-up, and someone said something, and I had him go run, and he just ran 2 laps around the field, and he came back, and he's like, hey, coach, I actually needed that to calm myself down and not let anything go. So, like, I'm like...
It's stuck. It's his fault. It's his fault that it's stuck.
If he's watching this, he knows exactly who he is, but it's stuck. And just, like, my non-negotiables is, like, and I kind of said it when I was, like, talking about recruiting. Like, I'm just big on effort and attitude. Like, you gotta be able to put the team first, but even more so than that, like if you make a mistake, like hold yourself accountable and make up for it. Don't sulk, don't drop your head, like, and with the other 10 guys need to lift that guy up rather than beat him in the ground. Because if you're on this college soccer roster, and this should go for most places, like you usually deserve to be on a college soccer roster, and you know what you're doing more times than not, and it's just operator error, you just did something wrong, and you know what you did wrong. And if you make consistent mistakes, that's when we're going to have a conversation just about like addressing those and knowing what you need to work on. But I'm just big on building people up rather than building them into or putting them into the ground. Because playing 10-11 because someone's not invested or involved, like it's probably not going to go too well for you.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. So I make these short snippets of of interviews. I call them quick shots, and I sort of create them, and then I just put them on the calendar out. And I'm going to do this one about the F-bombs. I think that's fantastic. Honestly, as silly as it is, I noticed it today how loose people are with it. Yeah. Parents and kids. It was at a club tournament, and these kids are on the field, and there's no repercussions. And I'm sitting there like, my son was in the game, and I thought, made some comment, perfectly legit English, no foul mouth, talking bad about the other team, and he wasn't. He was talking about the ref, which was fine at that point.
Yeah, that'll happen.
But with this other soccer team, I called him out. I said, you don't talk like that, and I don't think enough people do. Again, I'm off my soapbox.
No, and I'm not sitting here and saying I'm perfect. Like I said, I've done plenty of laps in my life for it because, my big thing is I wouldn't ask anything of them. I want to ask it myself. But if you look back at Wilmington's season, their last regular season game against John Carroll, they're one of their first team all-conference players. I'm not going to mention him by name. You can look at the box score if you want. He got 2 yellows within 30 seconds. And he won't even say exactly what happened, and no one's kind of... But then he was out for the first for the quarterfinal of the playoff game, and so those little moments. I think it kind of. I said in my interview process, they asked, hey, did you have any rules or non-negotiables? And I'm I'm not a huge rule guy. We'll have expectations, but here's the one that I've rolled with, and it's because I've been a player and a coach where someone's been sent off, and they kind of all just started laughing under their breath because they knew that something like that happened, and it did potentially affect an outcome of a game. So it just, at least, like I said, I'm not expecting people to be perfect, but in those intense moments when things don't go our way, can we at least condition ourselves a little bit to hold have a clear head? That's all I'm trying to do.
Yep. And you know what? That's very true. And I was never that good at that, but being level-headed. I was not a level-headed player. That was my problem. But
you were
it's true.
All goalkeepers are wired differently. So
my senior year, I played forward. I was center forward.
There you go.
Leading scorer of the team, leading points guy too for the team.
That's what you should snip it up, and you should clip it.
Yeah. Me talking about me. All right, so, and maybe this is again another sort of just looking at Defiance. How do you did you put in a lot of preparation between games, preparing for the next team, and only the next team you were going to play? The only reason why I ask that is because I'm just sort of cognizant of the timing of the schedule and how tight everything is, and so just curious if you put that much effort into scouting the other team and how much you make your team, how much would you make Wilmington players sort of understand and adapt to what they're going to be seeing in the next game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, total sense. And I think it's something we did. I like to think we tried to find the fine line of doing a lot, but not too much. And I'll be the first to admit, at Defiance, we're going against some teams in the conference. Like last season, we beat 2 teams in the conference for the first time in men's soccer program history, and that's of I don't know how many games that we've played. So we're not always looked as the one who's supposed to roll on the field and win. We had some super talented guys, and I couldn't say enough great things about those guys. But as coaches, like we had to bring something to the table to, continue to work on doing something better than everyone else to get results. So we had pretty consistent schedule of, practice Monday, practice, guys eat dinner, go or watch some film Tuesday, play Wednesday, practice Thursday, practice, dinner, film on Friday for the Saturday opponent, then day off Sunday. And we go over scouts, but like I'm not trying to give away company secrets. And I'd give, again, Josh, the head coach now at Defiance, like a huge credit for kind of adjusting some things that we did. Like we made it more of a discussion with them of, we had our points and we showed some clips, but we made them kind of talk about what they see. And so they took a little more ownership of that. And I think that got them more invested. And once we hit that, like we really feel like our film sessions improved greatly. And that's something that I plan on taking over here, just to get guys more invested in their experience. Because, I mean, just like my undergrads in high school education, like just in like education, if you're just going to lecture at someone for however long it is, like I personally don't learn that way. And I think a lot of our guys probably don't learn that way either. So if you could have a little more say on what your experience is, even if it's in the film room, I think you'll retain that better. So like we're going to have an identity, but also, and I think at Wilmington, like things might be a little bit different, because I do see some things on film that I think we might do better than anyone else in the conference, and it's about continuing to make that scary for other people. But I think it's naive to not know what the other team has at least done or tried to do, just so we could be aware of that.
Yeah. I would say, like, how much do you give them? Like, I think that's the balance.
Right.
It's like, how much information do you flood them with before it gets to like negatively impact them to the point where they forget what they're supposed to do, right? Because they're reacting. I don't know what the answer is to that, but so what you've been watching a lot of film. I'm sure you probably watched already a bunch of the OAC matches. What are your impressions of the OAC, of what you've watched so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like, it's no way around it, and that's what's exciting to me. I mean, I think 3 teams, including Wilmington, went undefeated in non-conference play last year, and one of those was not John Carroll, who won the OAC tournament. So, like, I mean, that says a lot about the competition of the OAC, but it's a premier conference to be in, and I think it really ramps up those conference games and makes them that much bigger and brighter of a stage, if you will. And I think that there's a lot of good coaches in it who have had success, some for quite a long time, some taking over for programs that have success, and some trying to develop something new that no one's the same. Everyone's a little bit different, but everyone on their given day could beat somebody else in the conference. So it's really gotta be on your A game every day, and I think that's a big thing as a coach, is how can you keep those guys energized through like an 18-game season, 20 with playoffs, knock on wood, hopefully, and all that. But it's keeping that same energy when you're in a conference that at-large bids can come from, where a midweek game, your first week of the season, might end up being the game that keeps you out of the national tournament.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a strong conference with a lot of historically strong programs and some new strong programs that, like, if you watch John Carroll and Otterbein, they're both very good, but they do things differently. If you watch Marietta and Ohio Northern, Mount Union, Heidelberg, Muscatine, Baldwin Wallace, whoever, like, there's a lot of talented players, and they all do things a little bit different. So it's a new challenge every day, which is exciting. And it's just figuring out how to be on top of that.
Yeah. I'm looking at your, to me, there's a lot of, I don't want to say luck, because it's not all luck, but like your schedule, how the schedule turns out for your OAC games. Like you open up at John Carroll. That's a hello. That's you know,
Welcome to the OAC.
welcome to the OAC, and then capital BW. Like you know, that's a good way to start. I'll definitely be watching that one.
Yeah, I mean, and like it's exciting for me. Like I said, like I mean, I grew up, 15 minutes from even John Carroll's campus of where I was at, and so I mean, that's where my family, friends are. But it's also where the last 4 or 5 OAC championships have been.
Yeah.
So
I mean, crazy, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, it is, and I mean that's credit to them. And I think they've done it with different ways and different players over the years. But I mean, I think we got enough to cause them problems along with other teams. And I mean, I think Dan said it in his interview, like the bullseye on their back has never been bigger. But I also think that about ourselves and our program, because when the top 6 make it, and a team like Mount Union, who's an extremely talented team, didn't even make it, like everyone's probably looking at the new guy to be the one to slip up and drop. So that's why I come to work energized every day, and our guys understand as well that we don't want to let that happen, and we got to be on our A game every single day.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like, you better believe it. I'm gonna call up the coach at Mount Union and be like, go after the new guy, because it is true.
I've known him since I was 14 years old. So he already knows about that.
Yeah. Hey, but seriously, like I don't mean this in a bad way, right? I'm not like, you're the vulnerable one, right? Because you have too much. You haven't. It's like the program under you is not established, and there's probably a lot of things, intentional or not intentional, that you're teaching the players that is new to them. And so how long is that going?
I mean, that's the thing. If you look at it, we're the ones with a coaching chain, and that's why, like, I've talked to our guys, and like I said, we've got a committed group of 5th-year seniors coming back, and I'm saying, listen, guys, I'm not here to have success in 3 years. I'm here to do it now. And I think that's what really gotten them fired up, and maybe it helps them lift an extra 5 pounds in the gym, or stay out later on the field for 10 minutes doing something, because they're like, hey, like, we got a coach and a coaching staff in place that are going to work to the best of their abilities to help us not only do what we've already done, but get even further. Because I mean, that's the goal. That's what we want to do.
You're I don't want to say unique, right? But you're in a interesting position where a lot of coaching changes happen because of the opposite. It's like the program hasn't been performing, and they want it to a different level. They want to make it, improve it. And you're already starting at a level, like a really high level. And it's true, you do have, it's watching in the fall, there's not a lot that you to do to get you to that next level. You know what I mean? Like, you're they were that close last year, and with the right touches, I think you definitely can be.
Yeah. And like you kind of just said, it's easier to fall off than go forward. Yeah. That's why this is not an easy job, but man, am I excited about it, because a group of guys are in the room that are going to make it, hopefully, that we go up and we climb that mountain up.
I like I said, you have the talent there. How many, do you have any like super seniors or graduate students coming back?
Yeah, I mean, we got 3 5th years of guys who have been with this program and staying. So it's not like we're bringing in new years or anything like that. But I mean, we've got a very good core group of guys, and we've got some really exciting incoming guys that I've gotten to get to know. And I think that's the other thing. It's, I mean, if you look at Wilmington, you got Bud Lewis, who was the head coach here for 30-something years or whatever, who stayed involved with me and with the program, and then Alex was a Wilmington grad, a college grad, alum, and just, it's having conversations with them to, get to know what got them fired up about the program and excited. But then I also, I have to also paved my own way with their with their blessings, one, and with their kind of the things that I think they did very well, because there's plenty of things that they did very well. So
yeah. I mean, the more people, I'd say, like, it's like you'll succeed when you have a lot of folks around you being like pushing you on to success, right? It becomes so much easier that way. Yeah. So much easier, right? And then doing the things you do, you're going to be successful, right?
Yeah.
That's
and
ultimately.
The other great thing is like the alumni support that's here, and that's been awesome. Like, I mean, heck, like the women's soccer coach was a men's soccer alumni here. Like, there's plenty of, whether it's high school coaches or some people involved in college or even just people that want to see the program do well. Like, I mean, they get consistent 40 people at alumni games and having alumni events, and that's what I'm excited to do, and really immerse myself in everything, not just strictly soccer, just everything it has to offer, because there's a whole lot at Wilmington, and that's not even talking about like some of the facilities that we have and majors and all that I think the school, there's a lot to be excited about here, and there's a lot to smile about sitting in this chair. So
and I can see I don't know if it'll show on the final cut, but I could see the green brick in the background. Like you're deep in it. Like you're already deep in it.
I can't fall asleep when I walk in here because this line wakes me up. But it's a nice little accent color. I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm that shirt looks better in an extra large on me, but that's
Yeah, if you want to trade from the hat thing to the shirt.
Hey, is it all right if I ask you some just sort of general recruiting questions? Again, some of this is probably based on your experience at Defiance, but they're just sort of general enough. I assume you're familiar with those recruiting websites like NCSA. Yeah. Like, do you use those at all? Do you leverage them at all in your recruiting process, or? I
do. And kind of what I'll say I do is like I like it for like that initial get to know me type of thing, because that's usually like a very efficient place to find video and all that. And I know some people have talked about it and they say they don't use it and it's based on the connections and relationships. But I mean, like for my time at Defiance, like we had to recruit and find the diamonds in the rough. And that's something I'm passionate about, is because I think I was that diamond in the rough, if you will. I played Division III high school soccer and had a lot of success, but I mean, it is what it is. That's not I went to a private school in Ohio that wasn't named St. Ignatius or St. Ed, so like no one knew. Like my school's not even open anymore. Like it just,
oh my gosh,
how small it was, and I ended up at Lake Erie and Lake Erie College. Let's see, at the time I was a senior in high school, they were 0-14 in their conference, their first year Division II. So like it was a diamond in the rough type program, and I really recruited that way of like finding kids like me who I ended up having a really good career that maybe not other people would have looked at. So I think NCSA, like sometimes those, if you're not playing for the sexiest club, if you will, or something like that, like you might not get seen, and I just make it like some of these kids we could get now because of the facilities we have, the program history, and I hope what I'm doing along with the current group of guys and how they play. But I do at least like finding video, and then there's usually like cell phone, and I can text a kid there, and like sometimes like these club games, the biggest thing is half the teams have brochures now of who the players are and all that. So like maybe you're not even getting this. You like this kid, and maybe the coach just took off after the game, or you had to go to a different field to do everything, and you don't get that info. Like at least it's a place to find video and info pretty quickly. So that's I could you could tell the mass emails and stuff like that, and like you'll get every now and then like someone saying, I don't know, I'll give my buddy Ben a shout out and saying, hey, Coach Federici, really good program. I'd be like, hey, he's a pretty cool guy, but that's not me.
Not me,
So you can call it those things. So like I think you could use it, but you can't use it as your only way. You got to make things personal, and you got to also do your research.
Show interest, right?
You got to
personalized interest, not generic. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You mentioned it a couple times, the facilities at Wilmington. I've never been there, and like I said, back in my day, we never even played you guys. I didn't know you were a thing, but like, is there has there been new investment, or is there the facilities there for soccer
Yeah,
players?
I mean, so
I'm curious now. This is a curious question. Like,
yeah, so I mean, in terms of like the turf game field, we do share with lacrosse and football for that, but we have like essentially a 9v9 turf field for men's and women's soccer and lacrosse, and then like there's like garage doors almost, and inside we have a 40x40 indoor turf facility on campus that I don't think any other OAC school has like a turf on campus to use. So being in Midwest, sometimes practice inside, it's nice that we could do it on campus. So I mean, the facilities are nice in that regard.
I think that's a big. I mean, it's been a arms race, but I think that's a big deal these days. Is just the quality of facilities that people look to.
I think the big thing is like we're talking about recruiting, and if a kid's going to step on campus and his high school facilities are better than the college ones, like that's it's a red flag to them. Whether it's fair, whether it's not, like it's just perception. And with social media and them seeing, oh, my buddy visited school X and they got to see that, like I said, whether it's right or wrong, like it's part of it. So the investment in those, and then like our athletic training facilities, since it's a huge major on campus, and having like PT and other kind of businesses on campus within the science building, like there are a lot of great things in terms of that.
What are your thoughts on showcase tournaments? Do you go to them? Do you like them as a recruiting tool, or?
I mean, I just got back from one this weekend, so went out to Grand Park. Like Grand Park, there's a few places like Grand Park, Voice of America, Warren. I mean, a few places within Ohio, Indiana that do a really great job with facilities. I just think they're great because you could see a whole lot of things in one time, and I think it's sometimes like you got to stay 2 days and spend 2 whole days so you can see everyone. Or I mean, if you have a staff member or two there, like that allows you to break things down. But I think it's great to see things, and also I think something like underrated, if you will, is I think like a student athlete nowadays, like if you got a showcase and you see a coach whether it's after your game, or you see them when you're running to get a throw in and they're right there and you see all their stuff, like I do think that means something, that of all these games here, they chose mine to go to. So I do think there's value in that as well. So I do think it's great bang for your buck to get out there for the colleges. With all the players in one place, I do think they're really beneficial.
I don't know. I was trying to poke around. I'm assuming you do or will do ID camps, or do you do? Are you? What are your thoughts? Do you like ID camps again as another tool for your recruiting?
I like them a lot, and I mean I think they can be used in different phases, whether it's phase 1 or phase 2. Like phase 1, like if a student athlete's interested in a school, like to get on campus to see what it's like, and to like. And how I do them is I make sure that I myself at least coach a session, since if they're coming to spend time at Wilmington on our campus, like I want them to get to know me and my coaching style. And I'll bring in other college coaches to make it also beneficial for them, like to be seen by a few other people. But then it could also be in phase 2 of like, hey, we visited, we've had a good conversation. Like I could give a lot more honest evaluation of where you're going to potentially compete as an incoming freshman or whoever you are, based on how you play at our facilities under kind of what I'm looking for and stuff of that nature. So I think if you're genuinely interested in a school, like I think I wouldn't say a necessity necessarily, but I do think it's a pretty big deal, because a lot of coaches do want to see you in their environment.
Yeah. I do think indication of interest, right?
Yeah, and like
if you're willing to pay the money, right? Like, let's be real. If you're willing to pay the money and go to their camp, it says something, right?
Right.
Intentional or not.
And we try and like I'm always trying to think of value, and I want to make sure that like we charge $50 for ours. Like I want to make sure they're getting a $50 experience where, they're getting a T-shirt, whether it's just like lunch or something. But then also at the end, like we do film like our 11v11 gameplay, and we'll just send that film to them. So if they want to break that down and use it for a highlight video or some kind of recruiting, like they're getting a little bit more than just showing up, kicking a ball a few times, asking coach what I could do better, and going home.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on high school, knowing that the seasons don't, well, I mean, they coincide, so you probably don't get to many games of them, but do you like high school soccer, or?
So I think I'm different than people. I love it, personally. I mean, me and my staff, I mean, we still get out to like games. Like when I was at Defiance, we'd have practice 4 to 5:45 or whatever, and we'd be able to shoot out to Toledo or Fort Wayne or something and see a game. Again, like I think it's a huge sign of interest for that kid that, hey, like college coach is going to my high school game and stuff like that. But I just think it's also important to have your brand kind of be out in the community. So like it's not just about Cory Bucur's brand. It's about, Cory Bucur, head coach of Wilmington College, and, going out to some of the high schools in the area. And, if I'm going, I probably have a player or two I know about that I'm interested in, or one of our staff members. But I do think that's a big thing. And, I just get a good feel about it. I think the emotion, the playing for your hometown or wherever you're at, like I remember my recruiting journey. My college coach came to my high school game and sat in the top and struck up a conversation with a guy and asking about who I was, and the guy just so happened to be my uncle, and of course he said all good things, and maybe that's how I got to where I was. Who knows? I just think, and maybe we spend a lot of time, and again, it's something I make sure I do, because I don't want to just ask my assistants to do it, because then they'd be like, where's the value in that if I'm the only one going? But there's just some intangibles that you could see that you can't always see in other places. So I'm actually a fan of it, and like I just know that growing up, like I wouldn't have been an academy kid, or just my club wasn't the biggest kind of club in that. So like maybe it's just based on my personal journey, but I also look for kids wherever I can who could be the right fit and guys for us.
This is not the last question, because I just thought of another. Where in Ohio are you from?
I'm from Bedford, Ohio, which is like a suburb of Cleveland. So
like everything else in that area is a suburb of Cleveland, right?
That's...
Yep. Okay, Coach, this was awesome. I really do appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to be watching, because I do think I do think you're a team that could knock. I hate to be this Sports Illustrated curse here. Not that I'm Sports Illustrated, but like you could knock John Carroll off their perch.
I'm just hoping to win the next game. That's all I'm doing. So.
I totally get it, and that's a good answer. But you got some players, and I do think, like, I actually think those 3 fifth-years could be, again, leadership-wise. I think that's huge. But I'm rambling. But that's
I appreciate that, and if nothing else, like I hope this brings some awareness to the program and have people tune in on live streams. And I mean, I think we have a pretty good live stream where you got like people actually broadcasting and talking. Interesting, or come out of a game if they're in the area or something like that. Because not only is OAC soccer great, but I mean, from my already month or so experiences, I think we got a lot of great young men that would deserve to be looked at and recognized, and hopefully could accomplish something fun over my time.
I had completely gotten schnookered with just focusing on the East Coast, until somebody on the D3 soccer board said, "Oh, you should look at the OAC. It's a lot more competitive than what people give it credit for." And I'd been watching Mount Union games. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But then I looked at it, and it is like, you want to go for a good soccer experience. You don't go wrong going to an OAC matchup. You don't go wrong, and it very representative, great Division III soccer. You can't complain. And I have to say, so far, as much as it pains me, like, so far the coaches I've talked to in the OAC have been nothing short of astounding, right? Like, just fantastic guys, yourself included. You're new, so I'm not holding it against you.
There we go.
Yet, but we'll give it a season. Play it out.
Being the new guy is all right then. So.
Yeah. You get the new guy, like, okay, yeah, he doesn't know any better. It's not even 90 days for you, so I'm like, I'll give you some latitude, but seriously, thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. Wish you seriously all the best in the next, I'll just say, couple months, because it's not going to stop for you.
Yeah, well, thank you, and hopefully we could find a Wilmington hat your way or something like that. So.
There you go. Whatever, I'll take it. I'll be a supporter. I mean, within reason, right?
Like, that's respectful.
There's one game I'm not going to be able to cheer you on for.
Yeah,
so
I know which one that is. So.
All right, Coach.